Hey, what's up? John Sonmez from simpleprogrammer.com. So I thought I would talk a little bit about what I'm doing this year, kind of this idea that I've had. And one of the things that I may do as a project, I've been thinking about this, I'd like to get some feedback on this, but it's something that I feel no one's really doing. You know, now I'm giving the idea out here on the internet, but I'm curious what you guys think about this, which is a journal. So many journals out there, but a specific type. And I want to tell you about what I've got in mind and what I'm doing. So part of 2017, one of the things that I've been doing is I've been sort of revamping my process and going through and figuring out, what's working. I went and I looked at 2016 and I said, okay, what things can I change? How can I improve my routine? What kind of things can I do? I always want to improve and get a new system and schedule in place and make changes, improvements to that. Because that system is the value of that system, how good that system is really going to depend or inform how much output that I put and what kind of output that I put. So I want to have a good system in place, and you can't always be tweaking the system all the time. Sometimes you just got to go with it. So at the beginning of the year, it's a good time to go and do that. So one of the things that I was doing was I added meditation. I'll be talking about that at some point once I get a little bit more experience with it and have some more to say on it. But I also added some journaling to my process. And at first I got one of these books, and I've gone through a couple of different journals. This one actually looks pretty good. It's called the Self Journal. And I've done the 5-minute journal. None of them stuck. The Self Journal, this journal I was planning on doing, I paid money for this thing, and I'm basically going to throw it away because I'm not going to use it, because I'm not going to use that process. Because when I thought about it, like my existing process of using the Kanban flow, how I plan my week, you can check out the video here, and if you're on a mobile, you can check out it in the description. All my links are always in the description, by the way. That process actually plans my day, and I don't really need this. And there just wasn't enough space. It doesn't fit. So what I found out was what I end up doing a lot of times is I end up taking little bits of processes and pieces, and I do better forming my own thing, right? I'm not using getting things done. I'm using some bits of that. I'm not using Kanban quite, I've built my own systems and my own process. And so I decided, well, why not do the same thing for journaling? Why do I have to do a 5-minute journal? Why can't I take what I think is the best parts and what would make sense to me, right? Sometimes you got to do this. Sometimes you got to think about what makes sense to me? What should I do, right? Instead of just following some system or someone else's thing and say, okay, let me logically think about what would make sense. Because blindly following something doesn't necessarily benefit you. Anyway, I started journaling, and my basic journal right now, and it may change, but I'll tell you what it is, and that's actually not the journal that I want to put out. But my basic journal now, it starts off with this: gratefulness, some things I'm grateful for. I know that's kind of cliche, but I try to really, really envision in my mind what I'm grateful for and feel those feelings of gratefulness. But I do think that's good. Like, being in a grateful mindset is really important to being successful and to starting off the day right and having the right kind of attitude. So I believe that is important. So I kept that aspect of it. So I have the gratitude part. Then after that, I immediately go into what am I stressed about? And I document like 1 or 2, maybe 3 things that are stressing me out the most. And then I put little bullets by them, and I say how I could take some action that would relieve that stress or solve that problem. And just by thinking through that process, just by doing that, it helps to relieve that stress. I'll probably go into more detail on this exact journaling process in a little bit here. In fact, you know what? I'm switching. You know what? I am making a call here. I'm doing a second video, and I'm switching this video. This video is going to be about that journaling. And the next video I'm going to do is going to be about the thing I was originally going to talk about, because I think this is important, because I think this process is actually pretty good. Some of you could use this. So the next thing I do, like I said, is what's stressing me out. And there's always something in the back of your head that's stressing you out, or you feel this nagging feeling, and it'll stick with you throughout the day. Sometimes it'll make you feel hurried or rushed and irritated. So I want to get that down at the beginning of the day on paper. And I want to get some resolutions for it, right? Because once your mind knows that it's on paper, and it knows that you've got a plan to solve it, it sort of poofs, it sort of disappears, it gets off your back, it gets off your shoulders, which is really important because then you can live the rest of the day a little bit more free. And so by tracking that, I'm just thinking, what is the one thing right now that's stressing me out the most? And then I put that down, and then I put down some of the resolutions for it. And sometimes the resolution is just, it's gone when I've put it on paper itself, because I realized at that point, it's not really that important. It shouldn't be stressing me out. It doesn't need to be stressing me out because it's not critical. So then what's the next thing I do? The next thing I do, and this system may evolve, it may change here, is I write down ideas and thoughts. So it could be some general thoughts, but mostly ideas. Like I'm thinking about doing this journal that I'll talk about in another video about which I'll get to in the next section. But whatever kind of creative ideas that I have for business, for life, right, and I just think of some of them. What floated? What was there from the previous day? Maybe I've taken some notes the previous day, and I just write those down to capture them. So I've got some ideas, and I try to brainstorm. What are some ideas? What are some thoughts that I've had? What are some kind of revelations? And I find that once I've gone through the gratefulness and I've gone through the stress, that my mind is a little bit more open to brainstorm some ideas. And I've come up with some pretty good ideas so far in doing this. So I do that. And then the final one, this is the one that I'm excited about, and I'm going to do a whole video just on this whole thing, which is failures. So I write down the failures I had in the previous day, the major failures that I've had. And there's failures every day. I promise you, if you start doing this, you'll figure out there's always ways you messed up, things that you did, mistakes you made, or failures that you had. And then I bullet under that, or next to that, what I learned from it. What I could change and what I learned from that experience, because I find there's a lot of value in the failures. And this is the part that I'm most excited about. Like I said, I'll do another video, but journaling the failures is really helping me because it's changing my mindset on looking at things, and I'm looking at those failures as a positive because there's something to learn from it. I think a lot of journaling, what I have problems with is like, it's kind of this pat you on the back, like what are your great achievements? What went well today? And that doesn't work for me, because it's great, it's good. Oh yeah, I did these great things, but you don't really need that. I don't know if we need too much more patting on the back for ourselves. We need to look at our failures and to gain wisdom, to gain knowledge from them, and we can, and it changes our view, because I don't want to be success driven. And what I mean by that is, if I'm success driven, what's going to happen is that when I don't have successes, I'm going to consider the day a failure. I'm going to feel bad about myself. But if I'm failure driven, I know that sounds a little bit weird, when something goes wrong, it's an opportunity. It's knowledge, it's wisdom, it's something to learn from. So basically, that's what I do, is journal the failures. And like I said, I'll do a video and I'll get into that, because I think this failure-driven approach, I think there's something there. And I'd actually like to create a failure journal, which I'll talk about in another video. But I wanted to wrap this up by talking about what I'm not doing as well. I found that a lot of the journals have something where you're looking at the end of the day and doing a recap of the day. I would rather compress that into the next day. I feel like it's a little bit too systematic and a little bit too structured, and what I mean by that is it's fragile, right? So if you try to journal in the morning and the night, maybe that works for some people, but for me, a lot of times when it's nighttime and I'm going to sleep, it's like I'm brushing my teeth, flossing, getting ready for bed, and I need to hit the sack, or maybe I'm reading a little bit. I don't need to have two possible things that I could mess up, and so I'd rather just compress it all in one. I try to make my day so that the beginning of the day is as structured as possible, but then I have more of the freedom throughout the end of the day. So I don't want to end cap it with a very structured routine at the beginning and a very structured routine at the end, because it's more likely that things will break, and if something breaks, then it's more likely the whole system gets thrown out. So I don't like the journaling at at night. I mean, I could be convinced otherwise, and maybe I'll experiment with it, but that's where I'm at right now, and that's the system that I'm working on. Like I said, I'll let you know if I update and change the system, but I think journaling those 4 things so far, it's been pretty effective, along with the meditation for me, and I'm actually getting benefit out of this. So I'll probably get my own journal and just start doing that system. I will, like I said, I'm going to do a video and talk about the kind of journal that I want to build, but I think it will be just the failure part of it, to be honest with you, because I think that's the most valuable. But maybe I could do something that has those four parts. But I really like this idea of figuring out your own system of what works for you, rather than, I also don't like the free form. I think that there needs to be a system. And so again, it's an evolving process. I'm liking it so far, and I think there is some benefit here in the journaling, although, you know, it's very hypey with all the different journals that they have now. If you like this video, go ahead and click that subscribe button below. Make this part of your daily routine, watching my videos here on Simple Programmer. I'll talk to you next time. Take care.